page 42, and we are on verse 37. The unbelief of the people. Yeah. Page 42.
142.
Top of the page. It says the unbelief of the people.
Oh, yeah, I see it now. Yeah.
When Jesus had said this, he departed and hid himself from them. Though he had done so many signs for them, yet they did not believe in him. It was that the word spoken by the prophet Isaiah might be fulfilled. Lord, who has believed our report, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? Therefore they could not believe, for Isaiah had said, He has blinded their eyes and hardened their hearts, lest they should see with their eyes and perceive with their heart, and turn from me to heal them. So it's kind of interesting if you look down at 1240 below. It says a reference to 6:10. Isaiah's mission to Israel in the 8th century parallels Jesus' mission to Israel in the 1st century. Both confront a rebellious generation whose unbelief calls down covenant judgment of Yahweh. And in both cases, God responds to unbelief by blinding and hardening the rebels, making them unresponsive to the warnings of the prophets. And so that's kind of a mystery, right? I mean, if you have unbelief, typically people have even more unbelief. And that's just how it goes, right? If they've rejected God and sometimes people get angry. You know, once that rejection happens. Like Pharaoh, I mean, it said God kept hardening his heart, you know, as the miracles went on and on and on and on. And that's for a variety of reasons. You got to remember the Pharisees and the scribes, they loved their temple, they loved their money, they loved their power, they loved the glory and position, and they didn't literally like the message that Jesus had, which went totally against all these worldly things that they were going for. And when we put the worldly things, which our generation is rebellious too, and in those generations there was covenant judgment against them. I mean, I don't know if they were as wicked as we are, but I don't know, we're getting kind of close. Because we've had 2,000 years of Christianity, right? They didn't have that benefit of 2,000 years of Christianity like we have. And yet look at our world now. Isaiah said this because he saw his glory and spoke of him. Nevertheless, many even of the authorities believed in him, but for fear of the Pharisees they did not confess, lest they should be put out of the synagogue. For they loved the praise of men more than the praise of God. So some of the Pharisees did believe in Jesus, right? But they didn't say anything because they didn't want to get thrown in. It was, and you guys had to understand, everything was about the temple and the Jewish community. If you were not part of that, you probably wouldn't have a job. You probably wouldn't be able to buy and sell very easily. You wouldn't be able to worship. You'd be completely cut off because that was kind of the government, the church, the family. I mean, it was a gathering where everything was centered around, was the temple. And Jesus cried out and said, He who believes in me believes not in me, but in him who sent me. And he who sees me sees him who sent me. I have come as a light into the world, and whoever believes in me may not remain in darkness. If anyone hears my saying and does not keep them, I do not judge him, for I did not come to judge the world, but to save the world. He who rejects me and does not receive my sayings has a judge. The word that I have spoken will be his judge on the last day. For I have not spoken on my own authority. The Father who has sent me has given me a commandment, what to say and what to speak. And I know that his commandment is eternal life. What I say, therefore, I say as the Father has bidden me. So Jesus cries out. So kind of like St. Paul, he's like, I'd do anything to help these people. He's crying out because he loves the people and he knows they're on the wrong path. And if they keep going that way, they're going to end up in hell. And he doesn't want that. He's crying out. And so I think it's easy to miss that, right? It's easy to miss, I mean, the emotion and put yourself there. Jesus just in anguish because he knows that all these people are rejecting him. He knows that where they're going to be going. And it breaks his heart, right? He loves his people. He loves all the Israelites. I mean, they're his family. And it breaks his heart that they're rejecting him, they're rejecting his teaching, they're rejecting God the Father. And he knows that ultimately they're going to end up in a bad place for all eternity. And he doesn't like that. He doesn't want that. And so I think that's, this is the one verse that really kind of struck out, because Jesus knows he's going to his passion. And he's trying to save every soul he can get, and everything that's humanly possible, right? Now, if he was God and we didn't have free will, then he could just say, well, they're going to believe, right? And you'd have to believe. But we have free will. We can say, no, we don't want it. We got to understand that. This is still important because there's still a lot of people that think we don't have free will. They think we're judged by fate. It's kind of a bizarre concept to you. But people believe that. They think that you don't have free will. So, Jesus is crying out, you got free will. You can choose me. You can choose to listen to the Father, but you will not. So now we get into chapter 13. Jesus watches the disciples feast. Now, before the feast of the Passover, when Jesus knew that his hour had come to part of this world to the Father, having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. And during supper, when the devil had already put it into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to betray him, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, and that he had come from God and was going to God, rose from supper, laid aside his garments, and tied a towel around himself. Then he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel that was tied around him. He came to Simon Peter, and Peter said to him, Lord, do you wash my feet? Jesus answered him, what I am doing you do not know now, but afterwards you will understand. Peter said to him, you shall never wash my feet. Jesus answered him, if I do not wash you, you have no part in me. Simon Peter said to him, Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head. You see how Peter is? It's amazing because the feet were, if you think about it, they're walking around in manure, bare feet, in sandals, and the feet are the dirtiest. And it was the lowest job of the low would be to clean feet, anything to do with the feet, because it was nasty, right? That's, they didn't take care of their feet very well. It's not like they had, like us, we can instant access to showers and waters and cleaning and shoes and socks and everything else. They didn't have any of that. It was a dirty, nasty job. What's that? Yeah, exactly. So Peter said, no, you're God. I can't have you washing my feet. But he doesn't understand. And so Jesus is talking in a different way too, right? They still have sin. And if you think about maybe like venial sin, he said, you're clean, but not completely clean, right? They still have attachments to this world. And so they're getting better. They're getting closer. And Jesus is saying that, Jesus said to him, he who has bathed does not need to wash except for his feet, but he is clean all over. You are clean, but not all of you. For he knew who was to betray him. That is why he said, you are not all clean. And so Jesus kind of makes that distinction, right? They're followers of Christ, and they're being purified by his word and by following him and being obedient to him, but they still have imperfections, right? When he had washed their feet and taken his garments and resumed his place, he said to them, Do you know what I have done to you? You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right, for so I am. If I then, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have given you an example that you also should do as I have done to you. Truly, truly, I say to you, a servant is not greater than his master, nor is he who is sent greater than he who sent him. If you know these things, blessed are you if you do them. I am not speaking of you all. I know whom I have chosen, is that the scripture may be fulfilled. He who ate my bread has lifted his heel against me. I tell you this now before it takes place, that when it does take place, you may believe that I am he. Truly, truly, I say to you, he who receives anyone whom I send receives me, and he who receives me receives him who sent me. So you see how he's saying, he's telling them, I guess this is important here. You know, I mean, the popes and the cardinals, they're not supposed to be, you know, acting like monarchs. Oh, come and bow, you know, I mean, that's not the way they set it up. We're supposed to have respect for them, right? But they're supposed to be, you know, actually the Pope's title is the servant of the servants, right? That's actually one of the most correct titles for the Pope, is servant of the servants.
Because he's closer to approach to Jesus, the more like Jesus you should be.
Exactly. And we should be giving our life in service of others. And then he goes on to say that, I tell you this now, anyone who receives anyone whom I send receives me. So we're called to receive those that Jesus sent, right? So for example, Father Zachary's coming. We're called to receive him. He's going to be on the Mary talk on October 10th. And he's doing on the Sorrowful Mother and the Immaculate Heart of Mary. And basically what it means for our times. And he also wants to, this is interesting, he talked to me about doing a book on Islam to help convert Islam, which is, and then we have this election and all this happened, you know, this we talked on Sunday, and here it is, you know, a few days later. But we're called to receive those that are sent by God. And he said, if you receive somebody sent by God, it's the same as receiving me, right? So you're receiving Jesus. And so we have to keep that in mind. I mean, and we're supposed to be respectful. I mean, of, you know, especially the priests and all the consecrated people that gave their life to Christ. I mean, that's a big commitment. If you think about, you know, somebody giving, you know, doing 12 years of study to become a priest, getting paid nothing for, you know, like Father John for 40 some years. I mean, they get nothing. I mean, you know, getting, might be a little like minimum wage, or, I mean, they gave their whole life, and they take, it's a vow. I mean, there is poverty in there. I mean, you're not taking a complete vow of poverty like the Franciscans, where they are not allowed to own anything, but it's pretty much that there's no material things that they really have that.
I've seen a few places, because I have friends that are nuns, and
Right.
they've gone to Ohio to a place where they retire.
Right.
It's like an apartment building.
Oh, yeah. And it's
They have
just
a simple kitchen and cooks to come in and cook for them. Yeah.
it's a cell, and they have it right here in Madonna. Yeah, and so it's very humble and simple,
And
and
in Adrian too.
yeah,
And
and
they have places,
My
you know.
cousin was a nun there.
yeah, and I mean, I guess that's, you know, so we're called to help them too. We're called to support those that are in need, and that just kind of hit me because truly, truly, he says, you know, I mean, again, when Jesus is being he knows his passion's coming, right? This is, you know, he's telling about, you know, here we are, it's Holy Thursday, right? And he knows that tomorrow is gonna, you know, be crucified. These are his last words. And essentially, you know, you can talk about a lot of stuff, but most people, when they're at their end, they talk about the things that are kind of really important. And we just had Jesus crying out because he loves his people, right? And he wants, you know, And again, he's telling them that, he's giving them teachings and truths. So Jesus foretells his betrayal. When Jesus had thus spoken, he was troubled in spirit and testified. So this means, this is kind of an understatement. This means he was wrecked. I mean, he was really, he was in complete distress, because think about this. He slept, ate, drank, with these 12 men for 3 years together all the time. Every one of them, including Judas, right? And Judas was one of the most trusted ones because he had the money pouch, right? They had to think, of him as a man of integrity because he's the one who was in charge of all their buying and selling of stuff. They needed provisions, and Judas was in charge of the money purse. And so he was troubled in spirit. So, this truly bothered him, because this is somebody he knew, somebody he loved, that was going to betray him, right? And he's going to end up in hell. And this is terrible anguish for Jesus, because he loves us, right? And when we make that decision, not you, Christ, that breaks his heart. Like the worst thing you can possibly imagine. And then he's going to do it with the kiss in the garden. It's like, which is like the kiss of peace, and the shalom, there was a kiss of peace. It was like, it was just a terrible.
That's what Judas did to Christ.
That's what that's what I'm saying is Jesus knows it's going to happen, and he's anguished. He's troubled in spirit, and he testifies, "Truly, truly, I say to you, one of you will betray me." The disciples looked at one another, uncertain of whom he spoke. One of his disciples, whom Jesus loved, was lying close to the breast of Jesus. So Simon Peter beckoned to him and said, "Tell us who it is of whom he speaks." So lying thus close to the breast of Jesus, he said to him, "Lord, who is it?" Jesus answered, "It is he to whom I shall give this morsel when I have dipped it." So when he had dipped the morsel, he gave it to Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot. Then after the morsel, Satan entered him.
Judas.
Yeah, he received unworthily. Satan entered him. And so Jesus could have said no. He could have been deceptive, but he always answers the question, right? And this is one of the places where it points to, he said, whom Jesus loved, right? So it's like,
Well, it's the ultimate choice of free will. God has given them free will, so he can't hold back the morsel. If they choose to sin and mortality,
right.
That's what happens, right?
Yeah, but isn't it interesting though that he received, the Last Supper, and then Satan entered him right at that point.
That's terrifying.
And then Jesus said to him, "What you are going to do, do quickly." Now, no one at the table knew why he had said this to him. Some thought that because Judas had the money box, Jesus was telling him, "Buy what we need for the feast," or that we should give something to the poor. So after receiving the morsel, he immediately went out, and it was night. And you notice, and it was night. Why did he add that detail?
Sin happens in the dark.
Yep. And there's always this contrast in John about Jesus as the light of the world, but the world preferred darkness because their works were dark. And here we have the ultimate betrayal that's going to happen. And Judas preferred the darkness, right?
Who got the money? Who got the 30 pieces of silver?
Judas.
No, afterwards.
He gave it back, and they wouldn't accept it.
He threw it across the floor.
Yeah, but they couldn't do anything with it because it was blood money. So they bought a plot for 30 pieces of silver, which fulfilled another prophecy in the Old Testament. And so that's a good question. Yeah, he betrayed him, and he tried to give the money back, but he didn't repent, right? All he had to do was go to Jesus. But he didn't. He despaired. And that's the one thing we never want to do is say, "Oh, my sin's so great, I can't. The church will fall on my head." No, go to the confession. It'll be okay. The church will still be there. They've heard worse sins. You're not You're not the greatest sinner. That's prideful. Oh, I'm so terrible. God can't even forgive my sin. Bull crap. That's proud, right? Well, actually, and so I was reading how who's the one that did the Dolores Passion? No. It's who wrote all the books?
Catherine Emmerich
Yeah, Catherine Emmerich. She had a vision of Luther in hell.
Oh, boy.
of Lutheran.
Yeah.
Luther?
Well,
Yeah.
we know that.
Martin Luther in hell.
Yeah.
We know that.
Well, I know, but we would hope not, but unfortunately that's,
He was so obsessed with sin, he used to create sin to give it the confession all the time.
right. He was also very, very anti-Semitic at the end of his life, and he had published a lot of stuff. That's why the Nazis latched onto him. He was very, very anti-Semitic. Yeah, because and he was in Germany, right? And so they latched onto that and took some of his later writings, which were terrible, and they used that to justify some of the terrible things they did.
So that alone is a horrible thing to be the source of, essentially.
Yeah, you don't want to be a source of any division.
The proof that someone uses to commit sin.
Right. The new commandment. So Jesus is here. This is last words. Remember all of this. Now keep reminding you guys again and again, because this is all very, very important. When he had gone out, Jesus said, "Now is the Son of Man glorified, and in him God is glorified. If God is glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself, and glorify him at once. Little children, yet a little while I am with you. You will seek me. And as I said to the Jews, so now I say to you, where I am going, you cannot come. A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another, even as I loved you. You also love one another. By this all men will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." So, what kind of love was that? That's some pretty self-sacrificing love that Jesus had. Love so much that he's on the cross, willing to die for his
Suffering
friends.
in the most horrible way possible.
Right. And so that's self-giving love. And so sometimes when you love others, it costs you. It costs you to be a Christian. I mean, that's actually, we'd have a lot better Christians if we all had to pay a price. What happens if you don't have to pay and you just get something for free? You don't really,
Take
You
it for
don't
granted.
appreciate it.
as much as if you worked hard and you planned and worked and saved and, for the most part, that's,
Good deed goes unpunished.
But here's his new commandment. I want to emphasize that one more time. A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another even as I loved you, that you also love one another. Jesus foretells Peter's denial. Simon Peter said to him, "Lord, where are you going?" Jesus answered, "Where I am going, you cannot follow me now, but you shall follow me afterwards." Peter said to him, "Lord, why can I not follow you now? I will lay down my life for you." Jesus answered, "Will you lay down your life for me? Truly, truly, I say to you, the cock will not crow till you have denied me 3 times.
In advance, he
sucks.
knows us.
Yeah, so Jesus already knew what was going to happen that night. And when you walk into St. Stephen's, what do you hear? Almost every morning you hear the rooster, cock-a-doodle-doo. And
Right
so,
over here next door.
yep.
Yeah, I run it.
And when you hear that, pray, Lord, don't let me betray you again today. I mean, and that's actually what St. Philip Neri would say every day. Lord, don't let me betray you again today. Don't let Philip betray you again
Betrayed
today.
you today, right?
Yeah. We don't want to betray Jesus again. And when you hear that cock crow, I mean, St. Peter was weak and he fell, right? I mean, except for grace, there go I. We need the grace of God. And I think it's by humbling ourselves and say, "Oh, I'm strong. I don't need," I don't ever say that because I know
You'll be
myself.
tested.
I know myself. After 500 trips to the Solana Center, I know myself pretty well. And that's important that we know ourselves and we remain humble, right? We want to remain humble because if St. Peter can fall and he, the same St. Peter was walking on water, we need the grace of God to help us and remain humble because we don't want to fall. And I think that's important. And we're going to end there on 13 because Audrey's not here. And that'll give her a good spot to